Hello everyone, I'm Treason, and today we're going to put the Pentium OverDrive 83 MHz upgrade chip for 486 systems in a 486 system and pit it against a Pentium running at 66 MHz on the Socket 4 platform and see which one is actually better. Not sure it's really a relevant test to anybody, but I think it's somewhat interesting. We'll see just how different Pentiums and 486s were in terms of the motherboard's capabilities.
The 486 was a long-lived platform, being relevant for over 6 years. In the industrial world, it hung around longer in systems like the highly integrated iTox Star, which was launched in 1999 and stayed in production until 2004, featuring a Cyrix core from ST Microelectronics, so I guess their contract had a few years left in it. Having first arrived in 1989, by 1993 you'd think the 486 was starting to age horribly, but this wasn't the case, as in most applications a similarly clocked 486 would keep up with or outrun a Pentium. And whilst the Pentium OverDrive didn't arrive until 1995, contrary to popular belief, it actually debuted earlier than certain other upgrade solutions, though it did so with a hefty price tag, and had similar intentions in that it was an upgrade for 486 systems. In this day and age though, the video might still be a valid test, which platform is actually faster. Both systems in this test are similarly spec'd. The 486 uses VLB, most notably with the 2MB ET4000W32P, where the Pentium's using a PCI Trio 64V+. Otherwise they have the same amount and type of RAM, the same amount of L2 cache, and both boards are very common models. Interestingly, the Pentium OverDrive has double the L1 cache of the Pentium, and that's probably to offset slower bus speeds, much like Cyrix's 486 DLC chip did for 386 systems. We did see how well that worked when I was playing with that. First thing I'm going to test is the speed of these chips. The Pentium has double the data bus width at 64 bits wide versus the 486's 32 bits wide. However, both use the same fast page DRAM. Both even had the same interfaces for the most part. VLB was hard to implement on Pentium boards, but boards with it do exist. The Pentium's bus actually runs at 66 MHz, unlike the 486, which in this test is limited to only 33, which is half that of the Pentium. I usually push mine to 100 MHz on a 40 MHz bus, but we won't be doing that in this test. I've turned it down. In most tests, the Pentium OverDrive actually appears to have the upper hand. In most circumstances, certainly everything tested here. It is notably faster in most games, and Doom will complete in 1738 real ticks, which I calculate to be about 42.9 frames per second. That's the OverDrive, where the Pentium 66 can only scrape a measly 2073 real ticks, about 36 frames per second. Not that impressive. Throwing Quake into the mix though, you'd think the OverDrive was a real Pentium, and it actually kinda is. It's a P54 based core inside. It's from the Socket 5 models of Pentium, which makes it technically more advanced than the Socket 4 chip, I suppose. The other thing to note is how the Pentium 66 is prone to these moments where it simply grinds to a halt for no reason for a split second. I noted it in a video about this system when it was running at 60 MHz. Incidentally, clocking back down makes less than 1 frames per second of difference, making me seriously question the board and processor. Performance is very uneven on this thing anyway, so who knows. In 3D Bench, the same is seen again, with the OverDrive coming out on top at 76.5 versus the P66 at 63.3, and PCP Bench is, what do you know, the same again, 20.3 versus 17.8. It isn't looking good for that Pentium 66. And to make matters worse, the Pentium OverDrive actually has a very slow hard drive, to the point that it's detrimental to these tests. Both Quake and Doom, though mostly Doom with its limited if any texture cache, will slow down a little when the system's pulling data from the hard drive, implying that if I was using the same drive as the Pentium 66, which has considerably faster seat time and better throughput, I may get an even better score. Unfortunately, there's not much argument for the P66 here. Whilst it is clocked around 17 MHz lower, I expected more from the faster bus. And it has PCI in it. And it had a high price tag. Even today, they're still quite expensive Socket 4 systems. 1 point is awarded to the OverDrive, and the P66 better think itself lucky I'm not awarding 1 point for each test that I just conducted, otherwise it would be 4-0 already. The next test is reliability, and it's a little bit tricky. You see, the Pentium OverDrive had some issues in certain motherboards, even mine's slow to get to purse with it, and it sometimes fails to restart if you press the reset switch. But this isn't a catastrophic hardware failure, and it will go away on its own. It's not like the machine's going to break down or anything. The Pentium 66, on the other hand, is noted for getting hot, which probably will shorten its life. There were also problems with floating point division, as I think everybody knows, which the OverDrive doesn't have. And those are more likely to be a problem than a machine that's slow to boot up, as they could derail an application, especially if the machine was doing something important. You wouldn't want to be hooked up to one of these in a hospital, would you? It's hard to call it though, because the OverDrive is an oddball and it might not have been compatible with your board due to Intel changing the specifications a few times before releasing it. The deciding factor then will have to be this: we'll just jam something in the fans and see which chip dies first. Something very strange actually happens here. The OverDrive slows down in an attempt to save itself when it detects a malfunctioning fan. Possibly the primitive early beginnings of thermal throttling that all chips have today. The Pentium 66 has no such functionality, leaving me with only one choice: to award another point to the OverDrive, because fans are a mechanical device and they'll inevitably break. You're less likely to unwittingly have a barbecue with the OverDrive than you are with the P66. And upgrade paths. It's not a test as such, but it's there. And this will be the decider, though really it's already decided I guess, we don't even have to do this one. Which system had better upgrade paths? Unfortunately, the OverDrive is pretty much as far as you can go with a 486 system. Granted, a 486 can take a wider array of chips between 25 and 160 MHz from all different companies, meaning more total upgrade options if you started with the lowest model. But we're talking about overall performance. This test is really just here because I feel sorry for the P66 by now. With Socket 4 having its own OverDrive chips, available at up to 133 MHz, I probably have to finally award 1 point to the Socket 4 system on a technicality, if nothing else.
To sum it up, this is really not what I expected at all. So, if you build a new machine, well, I'd recommend neither of the two options we've seen here today. If you want a 486, get a 486. If you want a fast one, go for a DX4100 or something. If you want a Pentium, go for a Pentium 75. Both options are cheaper and easier to set up than the ones shown in this video. But from another perspective, you might be a little adventurous like I am, or even more like me, have this very strange desire to run Pentium optimised code on your 486 because you can't be bothered to transplant or purchase new hardware, and it's the most compatible system you have. If you're any of these latter two, then sure, mess with the OverDrive, but be warned that it doesn't always play nice with every motherboard, and there are quite a few of them that can't be run over their rated clock speed, or so I've heard. I didn't do that in this video until now, because as you can see, if I had done, you'd have been getting more like 20 frames per second in Quake, and I have a suspicion I could probably get a couple more out of it. Overall, the OverDrive is clock for clock around 60% more efficient than AMD's solution, meaning that a 100 MHz Pentium OverDrive is generally equal to a 160 MHz AMD X5, considerably quicker than a Cyrix too. In the realms of FPU intensive applications like Quake or Pentium optimised ones like Duke 3D, it has massive advantages. It'll leave the others for dead,
but you'll have to do your math on it because it hits the ceiling a lot faster if you try to overclock it, and you will take a very marginal hit in 486 curve. It is by some decimal amount that you probably never notice in the real world. 125 MHz is said to have been achieved on an overdrive, and I haven't tried it personally, but I do wonder what would happen if I did and whether it would be achievable. Interesting to note is the difference between the overdrive and the Pentium in the tests that we have seen. It's actually very small. Clock for clock, there's probably almost nothing in it, which further makes me think the Socket 4 platform was completely useless and didn't even really need to exist. I can't speak for Socket 5 and 7, much as it wasn't tested in this video today, but it does generally yield better results as far as I know. It also existed by the time the overdrive arrived, which made people not really bother with the overdrive or just cheap out on AMD parts instead. I have to say that the overdrive does seem to get negative write-ups quite a lot, and I think that's unfair because I've actually found it's a decent little chip. You know, I'd steered clear of it and never had much interest in it, and actually it's not bad. It's an interesting way of running this thing. It's something to mess about with, and it will be useful soon.
Well, that was a neat little test. It gave me something to do for a few hours. I've just realised that I've missed my meal. It's no wonder I feel hungry. I'm starving. What's wrong with me? I'm like an hour past the time I was going to eat something. It's ridiculous. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, this video was a nice excuse for a video as well. I got to be honest, it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a review of Duke Nukem 3D, and I still will. But it's going to come out an hour long probably, because I go quite in depth on that. So, no, but either way my workstation isn't up to doing it. This is actually the 300th upload, and originally it was still about the overdrive, because I was like, well, I have to do something. And it was only going to be on the overdrive. I hope I've made it a bit more interesting by actually making it compete with something, just for shits and giggles. And it's also funny, I think, how, you know, the machine, that seems to be my go-to machine now. I think every like old computer guy on YouTube has one. You know, this is a machine that he goes to a lot when he wants to get something done. Who would have thought, you know, that it would be that thing that ended up as my go-to machine? But there it is, that's my go-to machine. And yeah, it'll end up back on its SX class processor again at some point. You know, I don't plan on keeping the overdrive in there forever. It's just temporary because there's something I want to run. That system ran it best, but it was a little bit slow, so I was like, well, we can stick that in there, dick around with the clock speeds. It's optimised for the Pentium, what I want to run, or it is past a certain point. And so it's like, well, that might be a nice cheap way of doing it instead of having to dick around and set another machine up to do it. And the Pentium 60 there doesn't even run it properly most of the time. It doesn't run a lot of stuff properly there. You know, I was considering adding a few other tests to this video, but I got to be honest, I want to get it done quickly. My eye's stinging like mad. I'll conclude this in a second. I'm not doing another take, I apologise. I'm tired, it's about the 10th time I've tried to do this. Now, video stuff, you know, I do have ideas left and things I'm going to do on this channel at some point, and we are going to get the workstation sorted. My base of operation will be a laptop, but it'll be a really good, it's going to be like a HP EliteBook 8540. It's a few years old now, but you know, it should do it. It's got USB 3 and Ethernet. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with this Dell XPS, which was recalled for setting fire. This is the second revision though, which was recalled for blowing up, so it's nice, especially when it's got a magnesium shell on it. If that goes up, yeah, sure, we can put it out with water, can't we? It'll be alright. I've got a spare shell from one anyway. We'll throw that on the bonfire. That'll be fun. But yeah, so that'll be what I run. There's no point in getting a workstation now. Everything's USB and NAS anyway. Get a laptop. It's portable, and I can move these fucking machines around as well. I can put them somewhere else. They don't have to be tethered to that workstation all the time. And, you know, this is upload 300. I've been here 7 years now, just over 7 years. I signed up to this site in September of 2007, as far as I remember. I could even go and find out, but I don't want to. I'm not that bothered. You know, I mean, yeah, I'm somewhat bothered, or I wouldn't have mentioned it, but I'm not bothered enough that I'm going to go and look it up right now. And, you know, that's all. But I don't think I was going to press upload that much. I thought I'd be looking to do it more than 10 times. You know, I thought, oh, well, this novelty will get old fast.
That may seem unusual to you or I, but to him, it was just another day, and he lived in the bin for as long as he could remember. The man was rather bored, and he had nothing to do besides playing with his collection of broken light bulbs. His collection contained bulbs of all shapes and sizes, but this had proven to have limited amusement and the novelty was wearing off. The man sat back against the inside of the bin and prepared to deal with yet another uneventful day. As he did so, he heard a loud rumbling sound. The man was easily frightened, so he closed the lid.
You know, we'll go back to editing shit no one will ever see. I'll go back to doing my stupid cartoons, which I'm still working on another cartoon. That's coming along pretty well. First time anyone outside of this place has seen it, really, outside of people I know quite closely, and you're not going to see that for quite a while, any more than what you've just seen. But yeah, I still tamper with that. And, you know, it's like, well, we'll go back to doing stupid shit that no one will see soon enough. And yeah, I still do, but I've obviously kept this up. And I don't do as much now because shit's not working, but once it is working, we'll get back to doing both things more. And you know, I'm still fascinated because like nearly 500 people now have thought it's worth their while to press that fucking subscribe button. It's like, really? You know, watch me just ramble about old fucking hardware? And I'm not driven by numbers. I mean, I don't give a fuck about view count and subscriber count, and definitely don't care about money because I refuse partnership, and legally I'm not allowed to do it. If I wanted that money, I would just do it anyway because fuck the government. I'd just bullshit them and take the fucking cash anyhow. But I'm not that way inclined, and knowledge is my currency. I'm not bothered about making money off of this. I don't want to. I think it's immoral, to be honest, to do that for the sort of content I make. So I'm never going to do it. But and I think the best thing actually about my fucking channel is I don't beg you for money. Support me on Patreon. You know, begging's illegal in the UK. If I did that, I'd probably be arrested. So don't support me on Patreon. In fact, go to Patreon and give it a middle finger at your screen, because that's probably what I would do if, like, my browser landed there for some reason. You know, make your own fucking money in the world. Why do you need everyone else to bail you out? You know, you're fine if you're a bum out the side of the road and it's not really your fault. Then I might fucking give you the half of my McDonald's or something, but you know, I'm not fucking giving money to random guys on the internet. You can piss off. But fucking hell, I got sidetracked. Yeah, either way, it's I don't doubt the amount of people who have seen my stuff and who do watch it is some driving factor in why I've kept going, and that's just human nature. You know, whilst it's not as big a deal to me as it is some people, it's obviously something of a deal to me. It has to be. Like I said, that's just human nature, really. So in effect, I suppose that means you make this channel almost as much as I do. So I want to do something daft. You know, I want to do something really fucking that I'm probably going to regret. But ask me anything within reason. I don't know, ask me to explain something, or ask me to do something daft, and I get Windows XP working on that 486 or something, or do something stupid with the synthesizer, I don't know. And I'll give it a go. I can't promise that what you ask will end well. It might end bloody disastrously and I might fail, but we'll do it anyway. Meanwhile, though, we have another video coming up. I've had it ready for a little while, and it's nothing to do with technology whatsoever. Well, I suppose in the abstract it probably is, but yeah, it's not really the focus of it. It's something stupid, and it's probably not the only one. It's probably going to be like another one in a similar vein coming. If you don't like it, I'm not fucking worried about it. It's not going to be a permanent thing that we do every fucking week or something, so you know, don't worry about it if you think, oh god, this channel's going to shit. It's just a fucking, I'm going mess about, and I might do it one more time, maybe two more times, and then it'll be quits for that, probably, you know. So yeah, either way, this is dragging on, isn't it? I'm by Treason, so yeah, I'm getting the hell out of here for now, and now I've got to go and edit this shit. Actually, I've got to go and record a load more shit, because I've only recorded the camera side of it, so now I've got to hook those machines up and make that workstation do something now. It sucks. You know, if you don't like spiders, I wouldn't watch this right now. You know, there was one down there, and I'm like, where's that fucker gone? I just walked through this door a couple of times, and then noticed right above it we've got that going on. Oh dear. I like spiders though. They're nice big ones, not them. As far as spiders around here go, we don't get like huge spiders here. If I do use this as an appendix to something, then you know, people probably might not be from this country, you might get bigger spiders where you are. We get some a bit bigger than that, but long legs on it. I think he's a male.